Good to see everybody here. For those that don't know me, I am the third child, second son to Richard and Maureen. So looking back in my life, I'm truly amazed the impact that Richie, my dad, had on me and so many other people. We had a lot of great memories, many you've heard of already, spoken of, and many childhood memories. As most people close to him know, he was a crafty guy. He could fix just about anything, and if he couldn't, he's at least going to try it first. We talked about, it was mentioned, he fixed a lot of cars in the family after minor collisions. This was before the internet, where you had to physically go to scrap yards and multiple trips to 8 auto stores to find all the parts he needed. He took on a ton of large projects around the house and the yard. He built the family pool and the deck with his own hands, a couple of reliable friends, and a few cold cases of beer. The same pool area could be seen in several of the family photos, and many of the guests here have probably enjoyed an afternoon or evening out on that deck. So Dad regularly invited me to assist, more so to learn during his projects, looking to share his knowledge and talents with me. In middle school, as my mom had mentioned, his employer moved their operations center to Connecticut. Dad endured a 2-hour commute each way for several months. Ferry, driving all the way around, dealing with difficult carpool partners, and he just kept enduring in order to keep us in the same home, the same church family, and the same school district. When he was eventually laid off, he continued to persevere, selling electronics and appliances at Nobody Beats the Whiz, and if anybody's from the New York area, they know all about the Nobody Beats the Whiz business model, which was also a commute of almost an hour away. Landscaping with a friend's personal business, and he took up a newspaper delivery route, which I have a fond memory of. We would get up and help him on his Sunday run, which was the busy day, very thick stacks of Newsday bundles. We would fold, bag, toss in the minivan, take out the middle bench seat, and ride with him on his route, passing the newspapers, tossing them forward. He'd fling them left, and we'd have the slider open and throw them out to the right. That went on for a long time. It seemed like an eternity. And eventually he landed his new career with Symbol, and he kept us in Miller Place, in our home, with our friends, with our church family. As I grew older, I spent my teen years doing what teenagers do, and, going about doing my own thing. I started hanging around the local firehouse at 18 and eventually moved to Virginia at 22. During that time, Dad was a source of strength and always a loyal supporter of me. What wasn't mentioned yet, and I'll talk about, is how financially savvy he was. Actually, he mentioned it with the cars. He was very organized. He did his own tax returns. He taught me how to do my tax returns. And other than brokering the deals with the Jeep, when it was time for Rick and I to move down to Virginia, Dad and I took a trip down there to sign a lease, and I was set on this apartment, and it was a little bit further away from where we were setting up to work. And I was getting ready to go and sign. He's like, "Oh, what about this place?" Which was half the distance to work and close to a transit station. I said, "No way, we can never afford that." He went in there, he brokered a deal, found out about all kinds of discounts we could qualify for, and movement bonuses and everything like that, and we cut our commute in half. And he was definitely a savvy businessman. So throughout my adult years, I've done some things that were out of the ordinary. I guess you can describe them as against the grain. I lived without a car for a number of years. My wife and I are longtime renters. We decided not to have children, and I took a chance on a career move out in Seattle, 3,000 miles away. In all those things, he was always supportive, encouraging, and he never tried to dissuade me from my dreams or my passions. The only questions he'd ask are his way of making sure that I thought things through from all angles and came to the right decisions, weighing out the pros and cons. One of those against the grain things I did in 2012 is I entered a cross-country scooter race on a little mini bike for 8 days from Georgia to California. And instead of dissuading me from it, he became one of my biggest supporters. He read my blog that I posted in the evenings. He called to check on me, even if I was too exhausted to answer the phone. He still tried. On the second day of the trip, I had a almost catastrophic breakdown, and I needed to veer off course pretty far away to Jackson, Mississippi to get the part that I needed and stay overnight. And I tried to eventually had to catch up to the rest of the group. He called me just to check in on me, and I still have his voicemail message. It's one of the few that I just never been able to delete, even when I tried to clean out my phone. So I'll play that. You can hear the passion, and he's always looking out for his family, even when he's physically not able to come to Mississippi and help me.
Reading into the blog itself and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm sorry to hear that. Too bad. Sounds like from what I read your posting, sounds like you're going to try to get the part that you need and try to get back to the cannonball. Good luck with that. Call me if you need anything, right?
That was the man he was. I don't know, near and far. If I called him and needed to him, just like Jen had mentioned, he would have ran to Mississippi for me to get whatever part I needed. But that's the kind of guy he was. That's a testament to his always caring and protective nature, and it was one of the few things that I've held on to this long. When Dad started becoming sick and he was in the ICU this past September, I had to head back to the airport. I spent a couple days with him. I leaned over to kiss him and say goodbye, and he whispered to me, he said, "Don't remember me like this." I didn't know how to respond. I told him, of course not. And here's exactly how I'm going to remember him by. He truly was the rock of our family. He's a man who put his family first and foremost. His hobbies and interests were put on hold until his kids and his wife's needs were met. And after that, he funneled more of his love and devotion into the church, overseeing the finances and the missions team outreach, working with Tony Favicchia, sometimes on audio support. And as we grew older and became teenagers, he chaperoned and mentored with the youth group. Richie's impact and blessings were far beyond reaching, beyond everybody in this room. I look around and I'm continually amazed at the impact and the small stories that I've never heard of about him. I had the honor to call him Dad, and he had the unique title, a different title for everybody else here. Let me see where I'm at. All right. So now I'm going to speak directly to you, Dad. You epitomized, I think that's the right word I'm looking for, love and commitment. You were a man of love, honor, and commitment to Mom. And I strive to be and wish to be the man that you were, even if it was just a fraction of that. And I honor how you taught me to love. And I got a small scripture here from Psalm 73:26. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. You are no longer in pain. Your place is now in paradise with your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And there will come a day and a time when I will be there alongside of you. But know that we are okay. You no longer need to be anxious. You gave this family the tools and the wisdom to succeed and to thrive. I'm forever grateful to have been by your side during your last few days to comfort you, cry with you, and pray over you. We will be okay, and we will see you again soon, Pop. Rest easy, and we love you, and we got it from here.
Amen. Julie. I'm Chris's wife. So I just wanted to share, the first time I met Richie and Maureen was in 2007, a few weeks after Chris and I started dating. Throughout the first few months of Chris and I being together, I quickly learned that the Goughs are a wholesome family with strong Christian values, family traditions, lots of love and support for one another, and they also know how to have a good time. It was clear that all of these amazing qualities trickled down from Richie and Maureen. As mine and Chris's relationship blossomed, we knew we wanted to get married and share the rest of our lives together. It was even more special knowing that the family I was marrying into was nothing short of awesome. Richie and Maureen welcomed me into their family, and as their daughter-in-law, it was an honor to refer to them as Mom and Dad. Throughout the years, we all made many memories together. We shared lots of laughs, cried tears at times, and broke bread together with many family meals. Richie made a lot of these family moments happen. Family was number one to him. I had the pleasure and honor of having many one-on-one chats with him. I would call him or text him just to chat and see how he was doing. I would ask him for his advice, and I'd also fill him in on what Chris and I were up to. Richie was always an open ear and shared his wisdom with me often. I will never forget these conversations we had. Richie also showed how proud he was of all of his kids, and that included Jeremy, Tiffany, and myself. Every new job opportunity or accomplishment, he was there with us celebrating it. I remember I FaceTimed him after I got the offer for my current job position, and I could see his eyes filling up with tears. He was always so proud of us. He shared our highs and our lows, and even when things weren't quite right in our worlds, he was right there with us, supporting us along the way. I think of the many conversations we had when I would call him crying because life was a bit challenging for me and Chris when we were living in Seattle. I especially remember a conversation we had in 2020 when Chris and I were debating on moving back from Seattle back to Virginia. As we all know, the year 2020 was tough, especially when you added being thousands of miles away from your family. I remember us asking Richie his advice on moving back while we were FaceTiming, and he smiled and said, "I think you should." Of course, Chris and I made the ultimate decision, but looking back on that, we are glad we ended up moving back. Being closer to our family was always so important to us. I will always be in awe of Richie's very full life, his love for Maureen and commitment to his marriage and family, because that is truly special, and his many friends and family, his woodworking skills, his wits and brains, because gosh, was he smart, and the fact that he would drop everything for the opportunity to visit a loved one, even when they were thousands of miles away. He will always be missed by so many, and it was an honor to be a part of his beautiful family tree. I will never forget him, and I know that as time goes on, there are so many things that will remind me of him, whether it be a pineapple, as I remember him cutting them up often, Hawaiian shirts, as he wore them often, classic cars, classic rock, the list goes on. The memories we have, the times we've shared, the conversations we had, I will never forget him.
Hi, I'm Tiffany, RJ's wife. So as most of us heard, when Richie retired and they moved to Florida full-time, he went to work for Disney, driving the monorail. He didn't do it for the money, he did it for his children and for his grandchildren, and for the special passengers he may meet along the way. This is a poem for my favorite train driver. Life is like a journey on a train, with its stations, with changes of routes and accidents. At birth, we boarded the train and met our parents and believed they would always travel by our side. However, at some station, our parents will step down from the train, leaving us on life's journey alone. As time goes by, other people will board the train, and they will be significant. Our siblings, our friends, children, and even the love of our life. Many will step down and leave a permanent vacuum, and others will go so unnoticed that we won't realize they vacated their seats. This train ride will be full of joy, sorrow, fantasy, expectations, hellos, goodbyes, and farewells. A successful journey consists of having a good relationship with all the passengers, requiring that we give the best of ourselves. The mystery to us all is that we do not know at which station we ourselves will step down. So we must travel along the track of life in the best possible way, loving, forgiving, and offering the best of who we are. It is important to do this because when the time comes for us to step down and leave our seat empty, we should leave behind beautiful memories for those who will continue to travel on the train of life. Thank you, Richie, for being a passenger on my train of life and for leaving behind a seat full of beautiful memories. And I'll close by saying to you, Richie, the last words you said to me, good night, sweetheart.
I'm Jeremy, Jennifer's husband, as most of you probably already know. So, fun story to begin with is that how Jennifer and I met. We met online, and the day that we were heavily chatting through Christian Mingle is the day that they were celebrating their time in New York on a 4th of July weekend, and they were at the Washington Avenue house, which I knew nothing about at the time. And as we were chatting, you know, Chris and Julie were sitting next to her, and their inquiry was, you know, who are you chatting with? So she said, and as the conversation unfolded, they realized that they already knew who I was. And by, you know, the Lord allowing us, when I had moved to DC, I started attending the same church that Chris and Julie were already going to. And they became two of my favorite people at the church. And unbeknownst to me, I would meet Chris's sister online and then learn that we already had a connection. And the nice thing was to have that backing where, you know, Chris is like, oh, this is a good guy. And I'm like, oh, great, I'm glad for that. But when it came time to move the relationship forward, I took the time to ask Richie to marry Jen. And that was a conversation where I learned a lot about Richie Gough really quickly in about, you know, a 3-minute conversation. And it was because he didn't have much to say. And I contemplated that a lot. And, but his words were succinct in the fact that he, you know, wanted us both to take our time and really, you know, be sure. And I think you've heard other examples of that as well. But as I entered my marriage with Jen and we went down that road and I started becoming a part of the family, which was immediate. So not only did I have the approval of, you know, Chris and Julie, but immediately I'm adopted into the family. And, you know, Richie becomes an adopted father. I'm lucky to say I've had 2 fathers in my life here on earth. My biological father, who, you know, I'm grateful to know that he's still alive and with me, and I will use this time as a period of self-examination to make the best of that time with my dad. For, you know, only the Lord knows how much more time is left, and you know, it's something I will not take for granted. And I don't know if I've ever taken my relationship with my real dad for granted. But I do, as I get older, cherish the time more and more. And I know that all of all of them did as well with their dad. And I cherish the time with Dad, because as I got to know him, you know, I would observe, and I would observe his patience. I would observe a man who is a man of very few words most of the time. You know, one who could be, you know, sitting in a room full of people and his presence would be known without saying a word. And the times of just, you know, the one-on-ones and the short 8 years that I knew him here on earth, and being able to sit with him on the couch, you know, watching a Meacham auction and not saying anything, just having that presence. He exemplified a father who had a presence, who was actively involved, actively present all the time. And I only wish I had more time to learn. Because what I have learned from him, and knowing how to be a man who, in my opinion, was daily self-examining, looking inwardly, and I'm almost certain if you could get in his head, would be asking Jesus, you know, what does today hold? What would you have me do and say that would propel my children into the future, biological and adopted children, into the future, to be equipped to know what to do and to live for Jesus. You know, as the Bible says, it's an honor for, you know, a parent to have many quivers or many arrows in their quiver, meaning children. And, you know, fathers, mothers won't always be there. And it's the idea of giving them what they need to be launched into a future where they won't be present. And I feel that my future will be better off, my family's future will be better off for the time that I had with Dad, for the things that I learned from Dad in a very short time. Things that I did not learn from my biological father, you know. I love my biological dad dearly, do not get me wrong, but it's a privilege, again, to stand here and say that I had two fathers, and that I learned a lot from this dad, from my dad, Richie, for the short time that I knew him. And I thank God for that every day. I thank God for the example that he was to all of us, you know. And I'll just never forget, just, again, being able to sit with him in a room in silence and just enjoying whatever it was. And only every once in a while would I hear you perk up and say, you know, these guys, they know what to do. And he would go on about that, whatever topic it was. And it would be interesting to hear him be impressed with somebody else's knowledge when I'm sitting here thinking, this is a guy who knows a ton already. And he's impressed with somebody else who knows something on another level. And so he was humble and a man of few words, and I'll never forget that.
Okay, I'll share it. Unfortunately, going towards the end, at least of my siblings, you might have heard a bunch of this stuff, but that just drives home how meaningful and impactful it was to all of us. Dad was the rock of our family, as he was lovingly nicknamed back when he was a teenager. He was brilliant, smart, and a dedicated man who worked tirelessly to provide for our family. He was a devoted husband to my mom for 46 years of marriage, and I've been blessed to have such gonna be the backup reader for some of these. I've been strong mostly. I've been blessed to have such a wonderful example of love. For every milestone, achievement, or challenge in his kids' lives and grandkids, Dad was always there. Together, he and Mom made countless road trips up and down the East Coast and flights out west to make sure that they were always present and supportive of whatever came our way. Being the youngest of 4, with quite a large age gap between myself and my siblings, I feel blessed to have had such a dynamic relationship with my parents. I'm gonna do it. Yeah. Well, you stand here. I've had a dynamic relationship with my parents. In addition to a childhood filled with love in a busy household of 6, I spent a large amount. You saw how well she did before. We're right here.
In addition to a childhood filled with love and a busy household of 6, I spent a large amount of my teenage and young adult years living at home alone with Mom and Dad. This, of course, is because my siblings had grown up and moved on to college and careers. I will always cherish the one-on-one time I had with Dad. Anyone that knows me well knows that I always sought out Dad's advice and approval of every major life decision I've made. That is because I've always trusted his incredible smarts and wisdom. I'm lucky to say that he was not only the world's best dad for me, but also one of my closest friends. He was talented and could troubleshoot and fix just about anything. One example that comes to mind was when I totaled my first car. I think we all totaled our first car.
That was the morning.
I loved that car and was heartbroken to have anything else. Knowing this, Dad became a world-class mechanic, of course, rebuilt and returned my car to me in better condition than when we had first bought it. Keep in mind, this was nearly 20 years ago, before YouTube was even founded. That's who my dad was. He was always happy to use his skills to help everyone around him, family, friends, neighbors, you name it. Dad's efforts and selflessness hadn't gone unnoticed. While he faced an incredible battle over this past year, the support and prayers from our family and friends has been overwhelming. From having received meals dropped at the house, help with housework and maintenance, well over 100 cards and letters, surprise phone calls from people Dad had impacted so long ago, and so much more. Each of these things has helped the entire Gough clan see just how full a life that Dad had lived. Throughout all the challenges life threw his way this past year, Dad remained strong in his faith and trusting of God's plan for him. While I am heartbroken that our time together on earth was cut short, I find comfort in knowing that he is no longer in pain and will rest easy in heaven.
If no other family members want to share any friends that have stories that or memories of Rich, you're welcome to come and share those. And this microphone will be up here, so just come at any point. We'll continue to play the slideshow and share some music, but feel free to come and share at any point.
Back to 2017, after Thanksgiving, unfortunately, our brand new Toyota car, the tires and rims has been totally stolen. So the car is like a seesaw sitting in one of the apartments in Celebration. At that time, Maureen was very kind. She understands our situation, and I didn't know what to do. And my son that's his first car in the United States. So we actually didn't have much access. So Maureen told Richie that we had this situation, and quickly Maureen texted me. My husband said, you have to get the nut locks. And I say, how do you spell nut locks? What is a nut lock? It's hard for me to spell it. So then Maureen passed the phone to Richie, and he was on the phone. Nut locks, then you lock your tires, and nobody can remove that without the keys. So then I appreciate that, and they also extend a very warm concern because at Christmas time I have to fly back to Asia. I usually spend time back home. And then during the whole winter break, my car was nicely hosted in front of your home. So that I think it's all come from Maureen and Richie's very, I don't know how to describe that. I think that's from their love as a parent, and as they know how to get to the point, what is really important to your life, to secure your safety. And thank God, really, Lord blesses that I have 3 Camrys, all have those nut locks on it till now. Thank you. Thank you, Richie.
What do you think, just do this?
Just talk.
One time, after Sid had gone to heaven, we had some bad storms in this area, and Richie and Maureen only insisted that I spend some time with them. I stayed over a couple of nights, one time at Laura's, and they really are for real. I'm very grateful to know all of you, and I'm so especially happy that I had the opportunity to meet such wonderful people like Maureen and Richie.
My name is Gloria. My husband Frank is right over there. And I've known Maureen and Richie for a really long time. I'm a nurse, and so is Maureen. And we kind of knew each other from working at St. Charles Hospital on Long Island. And so one day, or many days, Maureen would invite me over and we'd bring the kids, and they'd have a great time because they're about the same age, and Chris and Ricky. And it was always wild over there. Right? The running around, Ricky would run around the most. He'd run around so much, he'd be screaming, that he would throw up. Right? But anyway, one day, I don't know where they were, but there was no screaming and no running. It was just you and me and Richie. And what happened was, I guess it was the Holy Spirit or whatever, but I felt the urge to talk to Maureen and Richie about the Lord. And so I did. And this was the first time they ever heard about Jesus in the way that we believe, that he came to save and not to condemn. And it was a wonderful time I had speaking with them, both of them. And I do believe, and I'm not toting myself, but I do believe that was the first time that Richie heard the gospel. I had the Bible there, and that he believed in Jesus Christ. Amen. And maybe someone else spoke before me or after, but he seemed very interested. And if he accepted the Lord, I'm sure it was after that. From that day on, he went to church. He served in the church, as you heard everybody say, and he was a great person. He didn't fix anything at my house. I have a husband. And my husband kind of does.
Everything new, that's why.
True. So, anything else you want to ask me or anything? I mean, there were times we had regular fun and things. We grew up in the same church. So,
We used to go camping, we cruised together,
yes,
we raised our kids together,
mhm,
we had a lot of fun.
we did, except for the Ricky part. And Chris, I was telling him before, he was always the quiet one. I was pregnant when Maureen was pregnant, my son Daniel, and Maureen was pregnant with Chris. So we were pregnant really at the same exact time. So she goes and delivers first. Now I'm still pregnant and sick of it. So what I did, I called the doctor and I pretended I was in labor. And so he said, oh, come in, don't eat, do this. So then I had Daniel. So they were really the same kind of date. But my child was horrible, always crying. He cried in the car, getting home to from the hospital. This was horrible. And their son, Chris, he was really good. He never cried. They would sit together, little baby things. And my son Daniel would be hysterical, crying for no reason at all. But we were at Maureen, right? And we were outside. I have no pictures of Daniel because he was always in the crying mode. Who wants a picture of your child crying? But I was always at Maureen's, and she was good to take care of him. And Richie was always a wonderful person when I went there. But my most important thing was about him accepting Jesus Christ. But we've been friends since then. And we've gone on cruises and other things with the church and camping. What else? Anything, Frankie? Ooh, my husband is quiet and weird. Daddy's gonna come home. This is weird.
It's time for her to go down.
Okay.
I'm not going to speak, but I just want to, Richie, I want to say something just to break this up. As far as everyone is saying how great you were, how many things you do. Well, Rich, you're not a great skier. I give you credit though, you gave it a try. We all went skiing once, and I remember Maureen, I hated, she was always falling, and Richie gave it that try. He broke his collarbone, and
I had to drive home with 4
she had to drive home, yeah.
Stayed in New York and right to the hospital.
So I'm sorry, Rich. This is the one thing you couldn't do. But we love you. We love you.
Okay, I could not let this go by. So I'm Maureen's sister. She's my only sibling. Richie was my only brother-in-law. We go back to 1970 when they met, when we were in high school. Him and my first husband were best friends, and there was. We both got married. We had our children, first 3 months apart, and then she had 2 more, and I had 1 more. But this is gonna sound really silly, but we were at their house for dinner one night, and my daughter was in dance class, and so I dropped her off at school, dancing school, and we ate, and we had a little wine. We had a little more wine, maybe a little more wine, and I forgot to pick my daughter up from dance class. And I get a phone call. She called with no cell phone, she called my sister's house and her, Mom, where the hell are you? I'm supposed to be out of here. And whatever her name was, waiting to go home. I couldn't drive. So Richie got up from the table and went and picked my daughter up from dance school. And I was so grateful for that. And that one more example of him being the rock. He was the responsible one, I was the jerk. But, he did things like that for people all the time. One of my fondest memories of him was when him and his friends were on a bowling team, and he was an excellent bowler. And the thing that was so funny was that every time he got up to throw the ball, he'd get up to the line, and then I don't know if I can do this. I don't want to fall. He'd wipe the bottom of his shoe, and then he'd wipe the bottom of his other shoe, and then he'd do this kind of thing, and then he'd get up and throw the ball. And every single time he got up there, he did that. It was just his routine. But he was a great brother-in-law. When I moved into my home that was around the corner from them, he and my sister, as a housewarming gift, redid my dining room with the wallpaper, the molding, the paint, the whole deal. Did an excellent job. Like everybody has said, he's a perfectionist. He never would cut corners. He would do it and redo it 100 times if he had to make it right. And just selfless and giving. The love he has always had for my sister is just a remarkable thing, just a remarkable thing. And his children and his grandchildren. And I've known him for so long, and he was like a brother to me. And I will dearly miss him. And I'm very, very brokenhearted for my sister and her family. So thank you, Richie. Thank you for the memories.
Hello, everyone. Most of you don't know me. I'm Michael Walbeck. I've been in Celebration Community Church. It'll be 1 year next weekend. So I just wanted to say a few words. Rich really touched my life as a new member of this congregation. We had Bible study together, and I probably prayed for Rich the most I prayed for anybody in the past year, because he would come into Bible study and he would say, hey, I'm doing well this week, but you know what, I have to go in for a cancer treatment next week, so I won't be here for a couple of weeks, and we'd be praying for him. And I know that my prayers at home always mentioned him in my prayers, that the Lord would take care of him. And it was just wonderful. He was kind of a mentor to me. We would talk about the Bible, we would talk about the Lord, and I just looked up to him as just somebody who was rich in just his spiritual feelings, and how he trusted the Lord, and how he was such a good part of our Bible study, and helping us as men to understand a little bit of what he was going through. So I know that he's in a wonderful place now, and he's doing so well, and he doesn't have to worry. And I just wanted to mention that, and thank you so much, and thank my Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Any other stories? Well, thank you all for being here and sharing these memories with the family and Gough family. We're so thankful as a church family to be here with you and to remember Rich. He was such a central part of what God has done here over the last years, and we're just so thankful for all that he did in our lives. So just feel free to be here, to talk, to visit. We'll keep the music playing, I think, Maureen, right? And if you haven't been able to look at the pictures back there, do that. And the guest book up here, writing some memories, you can do that before you go. But thank you all for being here.
Thank you.